This is going to be my cleanest setup ever. We're gonna 3D design the whole setup in Cinema 4D because autism. And I also can't wait for the PC I'm going to build. I've always wanted to build a mini ITX PC and it's finally gonna happen. This here might be the part of the setup I'm looking forward to the most. It's an absolutely insane monitor. It's an ultra wide that's obviously super curved. Man, I'm so looking forward to this monitor. I've been playing more and more Overwatch 2 lately and this monitor is just a dream for that. By the way, LG is sponsoring the video with their monitor. However, the design and specs of this monitor speak for themselves. Look at this stand. It's also very beefy. We can simply fix it on the back here. Now, the exact same monitor is also available in 34-inch. So if this is a bit too big for you, you can go to 34. However, I think 39 is perfect. And it also has different RGB on the back than the previous monitor I checked. It actually looks really clean this way. Now, a small piece of side information. I mentioned this monitor has an 800R curve and not everyone knows what this means. And so what this means is that since this monitor has an 800R curve, if you sit in front of this monitor exactly in the middle, 80 centimeters away from the front, it means that all parts of the monitor are 80 centimeters away from you. And so this helps tremendously with gaming immersion. Now this curve together with this monitor being 39-inch, 240 Hz and having a 0.01 millisecond response time, this is an FPS gaming beast. Now, when it was time to create a 3D design, I started in Cinema 4D by recreating the corner of my living room where we will be building this setup. And as you can see, I went way too much into detail with making everything look perfectly the same as it does in real life. But I guess I've accepted this part of me by now. I even measured the exact height of this threshold to make sure that the 3D design was an exact replica. And working on this made me think of these 3D box designs that you see online with like an interior design or a setup design all within a perfect box. And I kinda wanted to turn this design into that, but very minimal. And look at this, I was so happy I did it. This looks so much cooler now to start planning this setup in. The previous time I made my living room gaming setup, it turned out very basic and I was pretty disappointed after filming the video. I mean, I had a bed sheet as a window cover, ugly tiny floating shelves on the wall, no cable management at all. This setup was a disgrace. Now for this new setup, I absolutely wanted those wooden slates in the background of the setup, so I designed one panel which is 60 by 240 centimeters and I couldn't really see the result very well because of the lighting, so I added some lights to the scene and look at the difference the lighting made. So I positioned one of the panels correctly and then I extended it so it covers the whole wall. And I have to say, this setup started to look amazing already. I love these panels also. I'm so excited to finish the whole setup, to build everything. It's gonna be a super warm, cozy and modern living room setup, which is exactly what I was going for. Now for the desk, I started testing around with an IKEA Mikke unit, combining this with a wooden kitchen countertop, which is what I did in my previous studio when I still lived at my parents' house. There I did use the Mikke units with dark wood from IKEA. I liked the look, but for this setup I couldn't really find the look that I liked with these wooden slates and it didn't look clean enough with the drawers. So what I did is I modeled the standing desk I have from IKEA, which is a dark brown countertop with grey legs, and overall I prefer the look of this much more compared to the drawers. I was so into designing this whole new setup that I completely forgot I have these wooden slates here in the studio. I've been using them for a bunch of videos, you've probably seen them before. And I don't use this set that often anymore, so I'm wondering if I can take some of the wooden plates and use those in the setup. They will be grey though instead of black, so not really sure about that. I think we should definitely test it inside the living room before actually going for it and dropping the black panels. There's only one way to know it for sure. We have to test these panels in my living room. So I took 3 of the panels off the wall in my studio, took a moment to realize the crazy things my ADD makes me do, after which I partly broke down the temporary setup in my living room, moved the desk a bit and then temporarily balanced the panels against the wall to check them out, but I honestly wasn't really that convinced. Now I do have to admit that my grayscale chairs fit great with these grey panels. The mini ITX build I made also fits great with the panels because it's black and kinda grey. Anyway, in Cinema 4D it does fit grey together. I think that the grey panels will definitely make sense in the setup, so that's what I'm gonna go for. And speaking about this PC, when all these parts arrived, I was so excited. So I've just tested the grey wall panels and I'm actually not really sure about it. The thing is, they definitely do look clean and I mean, this style, it's amazing. amazing. The problem is just that I'm not sure if they fit into the living room. When you look right there, you see the gray chairs, black table. This definitely fits. However, the biggest problem I have, and maybe I'm nitpicking, but right there my kitchen has dark brown wood, and I feel like when you're coming into my apartment, you're looking this way, and then you see the dark brown wood, and then you see the gray wood next to it. I'm not really sure. I feel like black would fit much better.
I just heard the bell, so I think the PC is here. Let me quickly drink some coffee because I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna start building right away, I think.
I was very serious when I said this. I ran down the stairs and I saw all the boxes. All the components had arrived at the same time. Look at this case. This is gonna look so good. We're gonna use one of the SSDs that I sadly couldn't return. I mean, look at this. That's such a waste. Like, all of these are 4 terabytes. They didn't want to accept a return. But I guess we're gonna be able to use 2 big SSDs in this build. I literally couldn't wait to build this setup, so I moved everything to my living room table and I started building the PC immediately. Everything we needed was inside the PC case. I have 96 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, and of course I was most excited about my 4080 Super. Now you might ask, if you're building a very powerful PC, why not a 4090 instead of a 4080? And I've used the 4090 in a past build. It's an absolute beast, but it would be way too powerful for anything I want to do on this PC, even video editing, gaming on high resolution. The 4080 will be perfect. Also, 4090 is crazy expensive. I couldn't justify spending that money for this build. This motherboard, it's the size of my hand. Like, I didn't know that a mini ITX motherboard was this small. It does have a huge heatsink though. This is gonna be for the SSD. I still can't believe that I have 5 of these and that I'm only gonna be able to use 2. So at this point I installed both SSDs, one under this huge heatsink on the motherboard and then one on the back of the motherboard as well. And I also installed the CPU, which is a Ryzen 9 7950X. This is an absolute beast and I really hope that this tiny PC case is gonna be able to keep it cool enough. There's only 2 fans on the top for the radiator instead of 3 in a big case. That's definitely gonna have an impact on the CPU cooling. You do make some sacrifices in a tiny case like this, but I absolutely love this. Now, instead of mounting the GPU like this, like usual, we're gonna have to mount it like this. So because of that, there's a converter included, and so this part here will go in the motherboard. Let's open this. Maybe I can even push it in right now. Okay, that's not cool. Okay. So this is going to be the converter, and then now we're gonna have to fit in the GPU like this and then plug it in right here. Let's take a moment to appreciate how good this GPU looks inside of this case. Now, one of the last steps was fixing what I talked about before, the airflow in this case. The case came with 2 exhaust fans, which are from the radiator from the CPU cooler. However, there were no air intake fans, so I installed 2 low profile Noctua fans on the bottom plate. They were low enough to fit under the motherboard. They also came with anti-vibration pads in multiple colors. I chose the black ones. You just attach them to every corner. They come with double-sided tape. And then the last thing was unboxing and installing this glass panel. It came separately packaged, very safe, and it replaces the base side plate, which is this right here. The base version of this case, which you can also buy and is much cheaper. That one comes with this side plate. I'm gonna be honest, it definitely looks good. It looks like a solid unit. However, I do think that the glass side plate looks a bit more fancy, so I'm gonna use that one in this build. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think the peel alone might have been worth it. That was a nice peel. Now, I couldn't wait to test out this new PC and the insane monitor, so I built a test setup to get a preview of what it would feel like when my setup is finally ready. It is clear that with this monitor, which is the LG 39GS95QEB, LG paid very close attention to making it look aesthetically pleasing, as the stand looks very nice, and after attaching all of the cables, you can also use the cable cap, which does come in the box and which helps you to make the back of the monitor look completely smooth in case that is visible in your setup. This monitor looks very polished overall, and the 0.03 millisecond response time of the OLED panel combined with the 240Hz refresh rate of this monitor make everything you do feel incredibly smooth and responsive. Now, in terms of connections, on the bottom there are 2 HDMI ports, there's 1 display port, 2 USB ports, and then still on the bottom but completely in the front of the monitor, there's 1 headphone jack. Now, with a 1440p ultra wide resolution, good PC PCs will be able to reach 240Hz in most competitive games, and let me tell you, the smoothness of this is such a game changer. While testing, I felt super connected to the game, completely immersed, and this is partly due to all the crazy specs, but also due to the 800R curve and the super thin bezels all around the monitor. They call this an almost borderless display, and for once, I can completely agree with this statement. The borders are extremely thin, and I've always found that thin borders make the overall screen look bigger and more impressive. There's also a matte anti-glare coating, and this pretty much eliminates all of the reflections, and due to the MLA Plus technology, which stands for Micro Lens Array, what you should know about this technology is just that it makes OLED panels look brighter, and this technology, which makes the screen more bright, combined with the matte anti-glare coating, is gonna be perfect for where I'm gonna be using this setup. It's next to a huge window, it's bright there all day. Okay, I was currently preparing some things for this video. As you can see, I was writing some scripts, and I suddenly thought of something. So this right here is the wall where the gray panels were, and as you can see in this video, there were RGB lines in the back between two panels, and I didn't really think of using them in the living room because, well, it's RGB, and RGB is gamer-like, especially when it's in your face, maybe behind the TV, but then still, I'm not sure. However, what I can do is I can keep the lights white. These here are the strips that would go in between, but I can just keep these white and maybe they'll be very clean instead of too gamer-like compared to just gray panels. However, I'm not sure, so I should test it. Now, before we can test out these RGB lines, we of course need to build the panels themselves, and the building process went pretty smooth. We needed to cut the panels to the correct height, but luckily we didn't make any mistakes and they turned out to fit well. The way we connected them to the wall was by drilling a hole, then pushing in a plug, then pushing the panels against the wall and connecting them with a few screws. We also made sure that we took the thickness of the RGB lines into account so that afterwards we could actually push them in and they would fit. And at the bottom there's a power plug and an Ethernet plug. I tried to mask them as good as possible. I added black tape so that the white wall underneath the panels wouldn't be visible if there were any cracks, but I think it worked out pretty well. I absolutely love how these panels turned out. Look behind me, they look amazing. You can kind of see that there's a bigger gap between two of the panels, but that was actually the point. The gap will be for these Govee neon strips. So the first ones will go right there, and then the second ones will either go right there or in the corner. I'm still not entirely sure the corner would be a good idea, because then we can hide that the corner isn't perfectly finished. As you can see, it didn't perfectly fit right there. Still not sure what I will end up doing, but I already put the desk here. It's quick for now, it's not finished because as you can see the desk is still loose. Whoa, this is heavy. Now I decided to go through with adding the RGB lines in between the panels, and the installing actually went pretty smooth. We left a tiny bit of extra room in between the first and the second panel, which made the strip fit right in. However, we forgot to do it between the second and the third panel, so that strip was, well, a bit more frustrating to install. Now both strips turned out to be too long, so we'll eventually need to deal with this later, but as they show on the website, they can be cut off at certain points, so I'm sure we'll find a way to make this look clean, as I love how they turned out already. And then for the desk, which is an integral part of this setup, I used my FlexiSpot desk, which I've had for a few years already, and installing it was pretty easy since the legs were assembled already. Now a little side note, I ended up realizing I scratched the desk pretty badly, which is kind of a bummer, and you can see it happening at this exact moment. And this one. Yeah, I did that to myself. Now, I already see some holes here for the control unit. So this is what we will use to control the desk, and I can install it here already. However, we will need to do some planning for the bottom of the desk, because I'm using this PC here now on my living room table temporarily. But this one right here is one of the card readers that I use a lot. I use a bunch of them. This is another one for another type of SD card. And in a video that I've done a while back, I attached all my card readers to the bottom of the desk. I had all of them right there, ready for an SD card to be plugged in and transfer some footage immediately. That was super convenient, so I absolutely want that right here in my own setup, where I will be doing some editing and be managing footage. So next I put the desk against the wall, and somewhat around this time I saw the damage on the desk. I tried the brown IKEA desktop I have here in the studio to see if I could replace the black one with it, which was the plan actually, since I started by designing this one instead of the black one. However, looking at my face right here, I didn't really like it. Nah, I just tried the brown desktop from IKEA and I don't really like the overall look now. I think the brown would look good if these slates would have been black. However, now like this, I don't really like how it looks. Alright, now I think it's about time to move this monitor to the setup and to check it out. I'm telling you, I am absolutely loving the overall look of this monitor. It's so clean in the back with this RGB, like this worked into the monitor itself. I have to be honest, while installing the monitor on the desk, I was questioning if I should use a desk arm at all, because the stand of this monitor looks super clean and I like the overall look of the black desk, modern panels, and then the stylish monitor with the stand. However, I at least wanted to try the monitor arm, so I went ahead and installed it anyway. Part of it is because it gives me more desk space under the monitor itself, and also having your monitor on an arm means you have much more flexibility in terms of moving the monitor closer to you, further away from you, lower, higher. Everything goes so much smoother if it's on an arm compared to moving the stand itself. Now, the monitor and the PC have already been installed in the setup, but I keep talking about transferring footage, so the next thing I did was installing the card readers on the right. Having these readily available just to plug in a card and transfer footage is a game changer. Now, as my keyboard, I chose to keep the SteelSeries Apex Pro because I love this keyboard and I'm used to it. It's a wired keyboard though, but wireless keyboards are something I'm not really a fan of. I mean, this keyboard that I have right here is a wireless one, but look at this. It's plugged in, and that's because you can unplug it and then use the keyboard, but eventually you'll have to charge it, which means you have to keep a cable around to then plug in. And what ends up happening then is you start using it like this, and then you just don't unplug the cable and you end up with a wired keyboard anyway. Now, a great solution would be drilling a hole in my desk like I did in a previous video. This would be the best option, but I'm not ready yet to drill a hole in the middle of my standing desk. Now, for my mousepad and mouse, I have a perfect combo for me, and it's the Logitech wireless charging mousepad together with the Logitech G Pro wireless. Now, there's a light on top of the mousepad, and as you can see, when I position the mouse on the mousepad itself, the light will turn on to signal that the mousepad has now been wirelessly connected to the mouse. Now, this is actually super useful because I have a wireless mouse right here, and this is also very useful. You just put it on and it will start charging. You take it off, you start gaming, but it's still something that you might forget, and then if you end up forgetting it and you want to start gaming and the mouse is dead, well, you can wait to recharge it or you can plug it in. Same problem as the keyboard. However, with this combo, you can just leave the mouse right there and it will always charge, especially if you're not using it. So that way the mouse always feels wireless, there's no wire, and it's also always charged. Then as the headset stand, I used a cheap one from Amazon. It looks very modern and it's very high, which I like. And the headset itself is a SteelSeries Nova Pro. It's a great headset, but very expensive. It also comes with an audio interface, and most importantly, it comes with an extra battery which you can charge on the side, and this way you always have a charged battery ready to quickly swap out with the dead one. Okay, now there has been a change in plans with these RGB neon ropes. So at first they were gonna go from the top to the bottom there, and then to about this height, and then they were gonna go under the desk because at the bottom they were a bit too long. And then also there's a controller here on the bottom, and this controller is very close to the end of the strip, so if the strip would be at the bottom, there isn't really a way to hide it. However, I did decide to try cutting off the strip at the top, and I did it for the left one. I cut it off at the top. It's perfect right now, and look what I did at the bottom. I made it like this. It looks absolutely perfect. So the wire that arrives here at the bottom, I can just push this here, and I mean, look how clean it is. You can barely see it. Now, the problem I had with these lights is that while the cables looked clean on the bottom, it's impossible to hide the controller itself since the cable is very short. So what I did is I took the cable box I'm using in the studio and I installed it in the living room setup, which according to me looks very clean. It's not perfect, of course it would be better without it, but in this case I had no other option. Now, there was one huge problem left with these lights. Look at the complete top of the light strips. They're not completely lit till the end. So what I did is I cut off the left one at the dot to try to fix this. It's better now this way, but you can still see on top that there's a small part that isn't really lit. And I actually think it's normal because they give these small black caps here on the bottom. They give these extra with the lights for on top as well when you cut them off to cover it. And I think this is because it doesn't get perfectly lit till the end if you cut it off. I'm not sure if I want that in this setup because then there will be black caps on top there and that might not look great. I'm gonna check if I still have them, and if I do, I might use them because this way, I mean, it looks like the product isn't finished on top. So I took a quick trip to my garage below the building. I found the product box and I found one black cap, but that's enough to test these out for now. And honestly, I really like how it looks compared to before. It does look like a finished product compared to not being perfect towards the top. So I quickly went back down, searched all my boxes, and praise the Lord, bored, I found the second product box.
Luckily it was in here. Imagine I threw this away. It would mess up my setup.
Look at this result. I absolutely love it. It's way more polished now. I'm honestly really glad I added the black caps. And for the cable management, I tried my very best to make it look as clean as possible, and I feel like I pretty much succeeded at that. The thing I'm most happy with is the cable vertebrae. This is something not everyone knows, but it's the perfect solution for a standing desk with cables going down. It folds when the desk is going down, it goes back to almost a straight line when the desk is going up. It's part of the setup now, and it's not some loose cables hanging from the desk. Also, for my loyal viewers, let me know in the comments what you think of this wallpaper here. I'm working on a big separate brand which will be a mousepad website, and the mousepads will come with graphics. So not only will you get a mousepad itself, you will also get wallpapers that fit with the mousepad. This wallpaper here will come with this mousepad that you see next to me. We're working on more combos, more mousepads, but I want to know your overall opinion on this idea of the mousepads together with the wallpapers. Do you think it's a big deal that it comes with graphics? Let me know. I'm super happy, by the way, that I ended up going for a standing desk setup, and I still managed to make it look super clean, I think. We also used the perfect screen for this specific setup with a window next to it. And then of course the OLED colors are amazing for gaming at night when it's dark. It's my second OLED monitor, and honestly, I'm not sure if I can go back now. These colors look way too good to give this up. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope I will see you in one of my next videos. Have a nice day.